because it's 11:01. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and hopefully this is going to work. This is the first time that I am doing this. So do you guys, are you guys seeing, let's see, are you seeing a red slide that says Holistic Autonomy, a 5-day class by Lola Reppan? Are you seeing a bunch?
Yes, but there's like a thick gray banner on the right.
Thick gray banner on the right. Okay.
Yeah, like blocking the right of the red. Okay, there you go. Perfect. Yep.
All right, let me try again. 1 second. Screen share. All right. How's that?
Perfect.
Better?
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. All right, everyone. So are you still seeing it?
Now there's like, when you moved your cursor, the whole like left side of the slide is all grayed out.
If you're sharing your screen, as in sharing the window, if you have anything over your window, it'll block it from us.
Got it. Thank you so much for that one. Okay, so now can you guys see the whole screen? The whole red screen?
Yep.
Okay. All right, cool. So hopefully this is going to work. All right. Okay, everyone. Did it switch?
Yes.
Yes. All right, great.
See
Thank
the
you so
agenda
much.
now. Yeah.
All right. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to my first 5-day class. I'm super excited that you're all here today because this is the first time that I'm sharing this material in this format. Many of you know who have been my students, friends, clients that I've been studying neuro-linguistic programming, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, and coaching really extensively for the last 3 years, and it's made a huge difference in my life. So I'm wondering if anybody here listening has ever felt lost or stuck or sad, unmotivated, like you just don't have energy for the life that you want to live. Have you ever wondered if you're a failure, or maybe you missed your timing, or you're wondering if you've mismanaged your potential, or maybe you feel like you've missed your calling, or maybe you don't even know what the heck your calling is? If you've ever questioned yourself that way, then I want you to know that I have too, and did for most of my life. Wouldn't it be amazing to feel excitement for life, to feel at peace with your life, to know that you're following all the clear signs from your intuition or from God, source, universe, however you conceive of it, and to know that you're aligned, that you're healing or healed, and that life is just a bowl of cherries. It's everything you wanted it to be. So in this 5-day class, I'm going to share my story of how I went from lost and suffering and struggling to totally excited, in flow, and super grateful for the life that I'm living, aligned with my purpose. And I'm going to share with you the tools that helped me get here. So today we're going to talk about the prime directives of the unconscious mind. This whole class is basically about your mind and how you think, and how when you know how you think, you're going to understand why you're getting the results in your life that you're getting. So today we're going to talk about the prime directives of the unconscious mind, what the unconscious mind is responsible for, and how to spot the unconscious mind in your everyday language or how you're interpreting events. Tomorrow we're going to talk about alignment. What is alignment? I know we're all familiar with manifestation and how to manifest, but sometimes it doesn't work, or it takes forever and you're frustrated with your manifestation practices. We're going to talk about why alignment is the key to manifestation. What is alignment? How do you know when you're out of alignment? How do you know when you're in alignment? How do you get yourself back into alignment if you start to drift? On day 3, we're going to talk about the intuition and how to get connected to your intuition in a way that it's like infallible for you. It's always there for you. It's always serving you. You listen to it, you trust it. And when you follow your intuition, you get the results that you want in life, and life becomes a lot more fun and magical. On day 4, we're going to talk about your vision. What vision do you have that you've been like hiding in your heart, or maybe you've tried to share it with the world, but it hasn't really come together the way that you want it to? What's the impact of you not living your vision on yourself, on your family, on your community, on the world? What would happen if you did share your vision, and how amazing would your life be if you were living from your purpose? We're going to talk about that on day 4. And on day 5, we're going to wrap it all up and we're going to set some SMART goals. So we've all set goals at some point in time, maybe before like a milestone birthday. I'm going to be X by the time I'm 30 or 40, or around New Year's, I'm going to lose 10 pounds by March 15th or something. But the unconscious mind, the conscious mind, clear the screen, the conscious mind is the goal setter, but the unconscious mind is the goal getter, which is why sometimes we set goals for ourselves and they sound great. And we're like, yeah, I'm going to go for that. And then it totally doesn't go the way that you want. That's because your unconscious mind is in charge of getting the goal. Your conscious mind is the one that sets it. We're going to talk about this a lot more as we continue. So let me just tell you a little bit about me. Most of you already know me, but I'm a coach, I'm a teacher, I'm a mentor. My passion is to help people release limitations so that they can self-actualize and live inspired, aligned lives. I knew since I was a little girl that I wanted to help people and that I really cared about why people do the things that they do. And when people were frustrated and sad, I knew that that was a thing. And I wanted to help people with that. I had no idea how. When I was a little girl, I thought I wanted to be a journalist or a writer, and I thought I would do it that way. But I started working in newspapers and media, and it totally wasn't what I thought it was. And I was like, this isn't it. And then I thought I would work in nonprofit and help people through, nonprofit social service organizations, but I just felt frustrated. I didn't see the changes in people that I most wanted for them, which is truly the changes that I wanted for myself. We'll talk about projection in a future class, and how the things that we're projecting externally are really internal. So all that helping that I wanted to do for others was really me wanting to help myself. But until I could help myself, I couldn't help others. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how all this unfolded, but just to tell you a little bit more about what I do, I'm a certified master practitioner in neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, and I'm going to teach you what NLP is and why it matters. NLP coaching, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy. I'm a certified ICF coach. I have a yoga school called the 4 Directions School of Yoga and Life. I offer 200 and 300-hour yoga teacher trainings, specialized trainings, and mentorship in yoga. I have multiple yoga certifications. I went to Columbia University where I got a BA in political science. Didn't really do much with that. I'm a Reiki master, a Thai massage therapist. I'm an amateur astrologer, and I'm developing Casa Om, which is a yoga-focused co-live, co-work space in the jungles of Costa Rica. And I split my time between Tampa, Florida, and remote Costa Rica. But most of you I know through Facebook or online communities. Some of you I've had the pleasure of meeting in person. Actually, I think practically everybody on this call I've met in person. So that's exciting. There's a few of you I haven't yet met. Anyway, I wasn't always able to just talk about myself this way and share my talents and gifts with the world. I used to be really, really shy and feel like if I talked about myself that I was being egotistical or bragging, or just I felt awkward. I was like, I ain't shit. And I used to feel that way for most of my life. And when you think that you're not shit, you can't share your gifts and talents with the world. So before I started doing this work, before I understood how the mind changes, learns, and heals, I spent literally decades in therapy, probably tens of thousands of dollars on yoga trainings, spiritual growth work, retreats. I studied Buddhism and Reiki, and I did the 12 steps, and I meditated. I did all the things literally for decades. I was always woo-woo since I was like 10 years old. I think I started reading Zen Buddhism when I was like 10. I started studying astrology when I was 11. I started throwing I Ching when I was 15. I did everything. I studied tarot, astrology, crystals, color psychology, the Enneagram, the Myers-Briggs temperament indicator. I was into Carl Jung and dream interpretation. I studied Native American spirituality, you name it. If it held the promise of healing, I was all over it because I was suffering. So what are some of the ways that you've tried to heal yourself? What are some of the woo-woo things that you've studied? What are some of the things that you've done? Please let me know in the chat. Just type in. I'd love to know what some of the things you guys have done, because I'm pretty sure all of us in here are like have sampled from the buffet of spirituality. So I'd love to know if there's something that you've done that I haven't experienced yet? Let me check up on this. All right, cool. Coaching. Yep. Raquel says all the things you shared. Yep. Reiki. All right. So, let me move this out of the way here. Okay. So yes, during all that time that I was taking in all of these healing technologies and personal growth technologies, I was working a full-time job that was not 9 to 5. It was like 8 to 7 or something. You know how it is when you work in corporate, right? I was teaching yoga on top of having a full-time job. And many times a week, I was working as a professional DJ in New York City, which means that I'd get up at 7 in the morning to be at my job by 8:30 or 9, work a whole day, go teach a yoga class, go home, shower, change my clothes, be at the nightclub at 11, DJ until 3 or 4 after drinking and smoking pot, and then somehow get like 5 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours of sleep. I was calling out a lot. I was like, I'm too tired. I can't go to work. I'm hungover. I can't go to work. Anyway, I was in environments that were not supporting my personal, spiritual, physical, mental health. And I was hanging out with people that weren't good for me either. I was in a dead-end relationship. I was just working to pay bills, and I was always anxious about money. I felt like my life was just slipping through my fingers. I knew I was here for something. I still had that desire to help people. Now I was like, okay, I'm going to do it through DJing and music, and everybody's going to feel amazing. And then we're all going to be a big, happy, spiritual family. Well, that didn't happen. I had no idea how to do this thing that was alive inside of me. So I was just always stressed and tired and angry and depressed. I was on antidepressants. I was self-medicating with pot and alcohol and crappy relationships. But relief started to come around 2018. That's only 4 years ago, when I did my first coaching certification program. All coaching training involves a tremendous amount of personal growth. And I started to understand the difference between coaching and therapy. And I'd had, like I said, decades of therapy. Therapy takes you from non or semi-functional, where you're struggling to pay the bills, you're struggling to hold down a job, you're struggling in your relationship, you're struggling with your health, and gets you to functional. And then coaching takes you from functional to optimal, where you're like, okay, I can now take action, and now I have courage, and now I'm doing the action steps. So coaching takes you from functional to optimal and supports you on the way. Therapy also tends to get us into coping mechanisms. So if we're in toxic relationships, we learn how to set boundaries. But eventually those coping mechanisms start to block us out from what we want next, which is that vulnerability and intimacy. So therapy tends to teach us coping mechanisms, but we've got to release those coping mechanisms for us to get to that next level. Coaching helps us release our coping mechanisms and actually find the healing inside and the inspiration and the alignment to get what we're wanting in life. So to continue to evolve, we've got to go from coping mechanisms to learnings. And to get our learnings, we have to get to the root causes of the behaviors, the thoughts, and the feelings that we're constantly thinking, that we're constantly feeling, and that we're constantly doing. And that's called root cause coaching. We're going to talk about that a little bit more as we talk about timeline therapy and NLP. That's where all that stuff comes in. All right, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my money story, because this is one of the places where I've seen the most tremendous growth through this NLP and timeline therapy work. Before I got coaching, I had major money anxiety. I'm an only child. My mother's an immigrant. My father and my mother divorced when I was 8, and I really had no relationship with him thereafter. So my mother, she's an immigrant she's Peruvian. So in a Latina family, like the daughter stays at home and is taken care of by the family until she gets married. Then she gets married and she's taken care of by her husband. That's the experience that my mother had. So when it came to teaching me about money, she didn't know anything. She was just like, make sure you marry a good man with a PhD, a doctor, a lawyer. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So I had major money anxiety. I had no idea what to do with money. I destroyed my credit by the time that I was in my 20s, because I signed up for one of those credit cards that they give you on college campuses when they're like, here you go. You don't know what you're doing, but have a $10,000 credit limit. So I totally wrecked that. I had student loans. I didn't know that taking out a college loan was going to put me in financial trouble. I was like, oh, I can get money from the government and go to school and forward my education and get a good job. Yeah. I didn't know that that was like tens of thousands of dollars that I would be on the line for, because nobody ever taught me that. And they just tell you, hey, free money from the government, you can pay it back. Yeah. So combined with student loans, the high cost of living in New York City, and the low earning nonprofit jobs that I was doing when I first got out of college, I quickly ran out of money. I maxed out my credit lines, and now I was tens of thousands of dollars in debt, making like $26,000 a year, living in an apartment that cost about $1,200 a month. I had no money. So I learned the art of hustle. I always had at least 2 jobs, several side hustles. I was a fitness instructor, a DJ. I sold used books and CDs. I held tag sales. I resold vintage clothing. I designed posters and flyers. And then I designed websites and graphics. I organized people's offices and homes. I edited books and articles. I worked at a newspaper, and I picked up every single penny on the street. I was paranoid to become homeless or destitute. And if my bank account was ever overdrafted, I'd freak out and immediately go on Craigslist to look for another gig. Like immediately, as soon as my bank account went past a certain level, I was like, oh, time to make more money. And I'd go and I'd look for another job, and I'd find any job on Craigslist that paid me $10 an hour, $8 an hour, whatever it was at that time. So for many, many, many years, if not decades, I worked about 7 days a week. I never took breaks. I had no vacation. I didn't go anywhere because I believed I had no money, and that money was scarce, and that rich people were greedy pigs, and that the world was an unfair place. I thought the deck was stacked against me because I'm a woman, because I'm the daughter of an immigrant, because I'm Latina, because I'm whatever. I had every excuse in the book to make sense of my poverty consciousness. I was pissed off, I was stressed out, and I was angry AF at the world. So if you relate to this at all, please type in the chat. Let me know if you've ever felt something like this, where you're like, oh, it's because I'm blank that things aren't going my way. So in conclusion about my money story, I was overwhelmed by anxiety around money, around survival, around meeting my needs, and around avoiding homelessness. I truly believed that I could be homeless. Yes, Morgan. So yes, some of you relate to this. But now I want to tell you about how everything started to change since 2018, and in particular around my money story. I'm choosing one particular story to tell you guys to illustrate how things can change and how language is one of the drivers of that change. Back to NLP. So in 2018, I started really diving into this work. In 2020, I started really studying NLP, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, all the material I'm going to teach you in this class. And since then, I went from that survival consciousness, like I'm one step from being homeless and being like forever financially in trouble, to buying 2 homes. I bought a property in Tampa, Florida during the pandemic, and I bought my property in Costa Rica where I'm developing Casa Om. And it's totally in alignment with my purpose. I work for myself. I teach yoga. I lead retreats. I offer yoga teacher trainings, and I provide deep coaching breakthroughs, private coaching, and group coaching to my clients. Just a few days before this class, actually, my mentors invited me to become a part of their team and to start working with their organization, teaching classes, coaching clients, doing breakthrough work. It's like being drafted by the NBA. I was like, oh my God, I can't even believe it. So I ended a very, very long and overdrawn relationship, which I held on to years past its expiration date. Now I'm in a very fresh new relationship that shows a great deal of promise. I have the love, the support, the physical intimacy and closeness that I was always desiring. And I'm doing amazing, interesting, valuable work. And I love every second of the work that I do. It doesn't feel like work. But in particular, if my bank account goes below a certain amount, or I have a slow month, or I'm late on a bill, I have a whole new attitude about it. I don't go on Craigslist and look for another job. I don't add another 5 hours of work to that day because I'm paranoid that I'm not going to make the money. I can withstand the changes to my financial, social, intimate, and even physical reality, knowing that all I need to do is understand what's at the root cause of the problem that I'm experiencing, and it's always within. When I find what is going on within that's causing the problem, I can get myself back into alignment. So now I have a more entrepreneurial mindset. I can take bigger risks with money. I know that money goes up and down like this. And when it's a down month or a slow month, or my bank account's like not looking so great, I'm fine with it. It's like I actually even sometimes get excited about it. It's almost like a game to me to see like, how much can I withstand and stay in alignment and stay connected to my purpose? It's like, I can't even believe what a change. And I no longer fear that I'm going to be homeless. All right, so how did this massive shift occur? In this class, I'm going to teach you the powerful tools that got me to break through to that whole new level. And today we're going to start talking about the unconscious mind and the prime directives of the unconscious mind. But before I teach you the prime directives of the unconscious mind, I want to teach you a little bit about how the mind works. So everything that happens, I'm going to teach you VAKOG. This is a model for understanding how you process information. VAKOG, as you can see on the screen, stands, it's just a, what do they call it, a mnemonic or something, for visual, what you see, auditory, what you hear, kinesthetic, what you feel, olfactory, what you smell, and gustatory, what you taste. Those 5 senses, your 5 senses, are how you process your external environment. Did you know, this statistic blew my mind when I learned this, and this is science, you can actually Google it and you'll see multiple sources for this, that every second of every day of your entire life, you are receiving 11 million bits of data per second from your external and internal environment, but you can only consciously process about 134 of those bits. So imagine a dump truck filled with 11 million toothpicks, and you're standing at the back of that dump truck, and the dump truck goes, and then the door opens and 11 million bits, 11 million toothpicks fall on you. You can only catch 134. That's less than 0.5%, smaller than 0.5% of reality is what we are filtering or experiencing, because our unconscious mind is getting the rest, but we can only consciously grab 134. So we're basing our whole picture of reality on the 134 out of the 11 million. According to the NLP Communication Model, which I'm going to teach you next, we're filtering our external events through our own biased lens of reality. This lens is based on our memories, our attitudes, our values, our beliefs, our personality, our nature, and our nurture. The result is that we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. If this is making sense to you in the chat, can you please let me know? Just type I get it, or yes, or I'm not so sure. Yeah, 100%. Awesome. Very cool. All right, Jerry, can you see my screen? Or anybody, can you guys see my screen? Is my screen still good? Okay, cool. All right, so later on, towards the end of today, we're going to take a quick test to find out which of your modalities, these 5 things, the VAKOG, are called your modalities. And I'm going to give you guys a test so you can find out which is the one that's the primary way your brain filters information. So I want you to know that there's no right or wrong to this. This is just, when you know this, you're going to know why you're so sensitive to sounds, or why the way a thing looks means so much to you. Or you're going to know why the way something feels makes all the difference. Because you might be a PRS, preferred representational system, of auditory or visual or kinesthetic. And each one of us has a preferred representational system, which means that the vast majority of that information that's coming through us is going to come through one of those senses. Yes, we're using all 5, but everyone has one that predominates. So you're filtering your world through your 5 senses. Before it even gets to your conscious mind, it's just going through your nervous system. Right? Your auditory system, your visual system, your kinesthetic, olfactory, or gustatory. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the NLP communication model. But first, I want to tell you what NLP means. So N stands for neuro, which means neurology. So your neurology is not just your brain and your nervous system, but that also refers to the physical and emotional components of your nervous system. You may have heard of the 3-part brain, right? We've got our reptilian brain, our limbic brain, and then our cortical brain. The neocortex was the last part of the human brain to develop. And that's the part that thinks. The other parts are responsible for your heartbeat, your digestion, what time you feel sleepy at night, what time you wake up in the morning. It's responsible for things like sweating. It's responsible for your sex drive, when you're ovulating and you feel called to mate, or when you've just finished your period and you're like, leave me alone, or all those different cycles. That's more the reptilian brain. It does things like keep your body temperature steady. Then you've got your limbic brain, that middle brain, also called the reptilian brain. And that's the part that does all this VAKOG. It's smelling, it's tasting, it's hearing, it's feeling, it's seeing. And it might see something that's like, oh, danger, I gotta get away. Or it might smell something that smells disgusting, right? Have you ever dated somebody that looked amazing, sounded great? You felt great in their presence, but as soon as you got close enough to them to get with their pheromones, you're like, ugh, and you knew it was just not a chemical match, right? That happened to me once. I was dating this guy who was so cute. He was super smart, loved spending time with him. But the first time that we ever went in for a kiss, I literally felt like I was going to throw up because his smell and taste was so wrong. And I was like, this can't work, right? So that's your limbic brain, the part of you that's just doing stuff unconsciously. And then you've got that cortical brain. So neuro refers to all of that. Linguistic, the L of NLP, is about your language. And we're going to find out that it's our language that is both revealing how we're processing information and giving us a chance to reprogram our experience through our language. And the P stands for programming, right? So we're using language to program our neurology when we practice NLP. So in the NLP Communication Model, I've already taught you some of this, right? The external event happens and you process that through your 5 senses, your VAKOG. Of those 11 million bits of data that are happening in every second, you're capturing 134, and all the rest of it, the 10 million blah, 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 are being filtered. And a filter deletes, distorts, and generalizes information. That deletion, distortion, generalization process is going to mean a lot to us as we keep going through this class. And I want you to just get really curious about that. It's like, I'm deleting, distorting, and generalizing over 10 million bits of data every second. Why? How? For what purpose? So why you're doing it is because your unconscious mind or your conscious mind can't possibly process all of that. So that's why it's happening. And what is happening is that we all have filters that are things like our values, our beliefs, our memories, our experience, something that's called our meta programs, which are things like, are we a global thinker? Do we need to know the big picture first? Or are we a specific thinker? Do we need to know the details first? Are we introverts or extroverts? These are more sort of natural and not nature and nurture together, but these are our meta programs. All of this filtering is happening at the unconscious level. One with that deletion, distortion, and generalization. So a deletion is forgetting or erasing information. For example, let's say that somebody says about their partner, oh, he or she, they don't text me back. They suck at texting. They don't care about me. But they are deleting the dishes that they do, the meals that they cook, the back rubs that they give whenever you ask. But because that person values texting right away or texting regularly, they are deleting all the other signs of care that that person can give to them. A distortion is when you recall the facts differently from your co-communicators. So a distortion is something like, all right, this is a personal example. 10, 15 years ago, I used to date this guy. And when we broke up, everyone who was about the same build, the same complexion, and had the same kind of physical characteristics, the same gait, the same height, I was like, oh my God, he's here. I saw him everywhere because I was distorting all the other information it wasn't him, but it was somebody that had about his build or about his complexion or about his style. And my head was like just swiveling on the stick every time I distorted the information around me to believe that I was seeing this person. And then I had the physiological reaction as if it was him: anxiety, nervousness, anger, all that stuff. A generalization, this one's really easy to spot, is when we make blanket statements or assumptions and extend one example to mean all the examples. So like all women are, all Democrats are, all Republicans are, all people who support the Second Amendment are, all people who support gun control are, all people who support abortion are, all people who are pro-life are, right? And we make these blanket statements because we had an experience with one of those people, and we drew a generalization. So now all people with that label are like that. This is happening unconsciously. And so going back to the NLP communication model, as we filter and chunk through distortion, deletion, and generalization, we get to about 5 to 9 information chunks. So a chunk is like a shopping list, right? You go to the market and you're like, okay, I need flour, sugar, baking soda, baking powder, and vanilla extract because I'm going to bake a cake. And then I need milk, eggs, yogurt, sour cream, and cheese because that's for dinner. And then I need toilet paper, paper towels, Windex, toilet scrub, and floor polish because I'm going to clean the house. So you might not remember all 15 of those items, but if you can remember the top 3 chunks, paper products and cleaning supplies, baking, and dairy, you can probably remember the rest. So we're mostly working at that level of chunk. And when we get to that level of chunk, where that overall, like dairy, bakery, paper products, right? Those are the shortcuts, the neurological shortcuts. Those create our internal representations, or IRs. Now, an IR is just a picture or a movie that you put on a thing that happened. So let's play with this, right? Our filters chunk our experience into neurological loads that our brains can handle. And those chunks create our IRs, or internal representations, which create our state. Our state creates our physiology, which produces behavior. So let's give, let me give you an example of this. So I'd like you all to just get relaxed for a moment, take a deep breath in, and exhale. And you can close your eyes for this if you want, or keep them open. It'll work great either way. So we're going to play with internal representations. So when you think about chocolate, do you have a picture? When you think about chocolate, do you have a picture? And just notice what it looks like. And now you might notice if there's any important sounds, maybe unwrapping the chocolate, or maybe you don't really care for chocolate, so you hear the sound of throwing the chocolate away. Are there any important feelings involved? Maybe you're like, oh, okay, this tastes so good. Or maybe you're like, now I can relax. Or maybe you don't really like chocolate and you're kind of like, meh, whatever. Or maybe you're just like meh about chocolate, so you don't really care. So notice that just by asking you, do you have a picture for chocolate? Your mind created a picture that has perhaps some sound, some feeling. Maybe you smell the chocolate, maybe you can taste the chocolate. And your mind, each one of you, is holding a picture of chocolate right now. And you were able to create it just like that. Now you can come out of that whenever you want. That picture of chocolate created your state. Maybe you're like, damn, I want some chocolate right now. Or maybe you're like, ugh, chocolate at this hour of the day, gross. And that's creating your physiology. So either right now you're kind of like, ew, chocolate, or meh, or you're like, yes, I love chocolate. And that physiology, that your nervous system is literally doing stuff right now based on your internal representation of chocolate. And that's going to produce your behavior. Either you're going to think about chocolate later today, maybe you're going to go get some, or you're going to be glad that you doubled down on quitting chocolate. Whatever it is, your internal representations produce your behavior. And we're going to play with this some more later on in the class so you can see how it works with other things. So now those pictures that you created in your mind when I talked about chocolate have language connected to them. And the language that we use to describe our experience reveals our filters. When you change your language, you change your brain. Wouldn't it be amazing to have a tool that allows you to use language to affect neurological change? That's NLP. And I'm going to be teaching you about NLP more and more in this class. So if you'd like to be able to understand your own and other people's unconscious biases, just from listening to them speak or listening to yourself speak, type yes, or like, I want the power, or something like that in the chat, because this is one of the things that I've found most thrilling about NLP, is being to recognize my own unconscious biases and the unconscious biases of the people that I work with. Yes, yes, yes. Superpowers. Yes, everybody wants it. All right, awesome. All right, so let's continue talking about the unconscious mind. So you've probably heard the saying before that we only use about 10% of our minds. That's not entirely accurate. We use our whole brains all the time, but we're only aware of about 5 to 10% of what goes on. The rest is happening at the unconscious level. Everything from your heartbeat and your digestion to knowing why you react the way that you do when someone speaks to you in a certain tone or wears a certain article of clothing, or when you see some kind of ad on the television. So the prime directives of the unconscious mind, there's about 19 of them, but I've just chosen these to work with in this class, because otherwise we could spend the whole class talking about the unconscious mind. But I am gonna have another class where we're gonna go more in detail on the unconscious mind, but we're just kind of top leveling it today. So your unconscious mind stores all your memories. That means that everything that has happened to you from the moment that you were born, and some people might even say before you were born, because we do have the ability to form memory, and we do have a certain level of basic consciousness when you're in your utero. Everything from then until now, your unconscious mind has stored. Your unconscious mind organizes those memories. So it organizes them both according to time, like this happened when I was 2, and then this happened when I was 8, and this happened when I was 28, and blah, blah, blah. And it also organizes things outside of time. These are memories associated with happiness. These are memories associated with sadness. These are memories associated with high energy. These are memories associated with low energy. It's outside of time, but it's organized. Then your mind will repress memories with unresolved negative emotion. So I'm a yoga teacher. I'm a yoga practitioner. I know a lot of you have experienced yoga that are on this call, or maybe it's happened when you're super relaxed, but out of nowhere you get a memory and you're like, oh my God, I haven't thought of that since it happened. And it comes to you like fully formed, and you're like, where the heck did that come from? That's your unconscious mind letting that memory surface, because you're ready to heal or learn from whatever negative emotion might be attached to it, or maybe you already released the negative emotion, so now the memory can come back up. And so that's what happens, is your unconscious mind also presents repressed memories for resolution when the time is right. And the timing being right, that's a whole nother topic that I can go into more in detail, and I will when we get there. But specifically around memory, right? Your unconscious mind stores memories, organizes memories, represses memories, and resurfaces or presents repressed memory for resolution, for healing, for learning when the time is right. Your unconscious mind runs your body. So your heartbeat, your breath, your skin cells coming off and new skin cells growing, right? What is that? Epithelial layer shedding something? It grows your hair. It sees, it hears, tastes, feels, and listens, right? Your 5 senses. When you get a cut, you don't have to tell your body to heal. It's just going to heal. Have you ever gotten a cut and been like, wow, my body heals so quickly, right? It's like in a few hours, it's already like scabbed over and you can see the skin starting to knit together. That's all happening at an unconscious level. So your unconscious mind also has a blueprint for perfect health. Your body knows how to get itself back into perfect health. Your unconscious mind is symbolic. It speaks in symbols. We're going to talk about that a lot more in the coming slides. Your unconscious mind takes everything personally. This is one of the most interesting aspects of the unconscious mind and helps us understand why, once we know this, it's going to make a lot of sense why we interpret our world the way we do. So your unconscious mind takes everything personally because your unconscious mind is also responsible with keeping you alive. So of course it's going to take everything personally, because if you see a car coming at you at 60 miles per hour, you're going to jump out of the way unconsciously. It's just going to happen because your unconscious mind is tasked with keeping you alive. But that's also why if somebody says something to you in a certain way, or you feel particularly vulnerable or threatened on an emotional level, let's say, or on a mental level, you're going to put up defenses unconsciously because your unconscious mind is tasked with keeping you alive. And our unconscious mind takes everything personally because it's tasked with keeping us alive. And because at some point in time, we decided that a certain emotional situation was threatening to us and might literally threaten our survival. Probably happened between 0 and 7 when you were still dependent on adults to keep you alive. That's why we're going to put up big defenses when something impacts us that in our unconscious mind, we're like, you're threatening my very safety and survival right now by the way you're talking to me. That's an unconscious process. So it takes everything personally. Your unconscious mind works on the principle of least effort. We're going to talk about that a lot more when we get into alignment. And your unconscious mind does not process negatives. Don't think of a blue tree. Don't think of a blue tree. Definitely don't think about a blue tree, right? So probably everybody's thinking about a blue tree right now. If you thought of a blue tree, if you thought about anything other than a blue tree, let me know in the chat. But I bet you that when I said don't think of a blue tree, the first thing that you had to do before you didn't think of a blue tree was think of a blue tree. So your unconscious mind does not process negatives. And that's why it's really, really important to watch your language and how your language will reveal when you are actually speaking in the negative. And that impacts how we can get the life that we want or why we have the results that we want. So here's another graphic about this conscious unconscious mind thing. This is one of the most fascinating things. Like learning this just makes me so excited because, you know, we think, again, the conscious mind is the goal setter. The unconscious mind is the goal getter. So our conscious mind is like, all right, I'm going to make 6 figures this year. So I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to put in that mental activity that I need to make that money. And I'm going to really concentrate on making that money. And I'm going to plan how I'm going to make that money. And I'm going to be really focused on making that money. And I'm going to make sure that I get up every day at 7 o'clock in the morning and go to bed every night at 10 and get my sleep. And I'm going to think about making that money all the time. And I'm going to do it in logical steps, orderly steps, because you got to do this first, and then you can do that, and then you can do that, and then I'll make my 6 figures. And I'm going to self-regulate myself again. I'm not going to do those things because I'm not going to do the scrolling, and I'm not going to do the smoking pot every night, and I'm not going to go shopping and spend all my money because I'm going to make 6 figures. And I have limited bandwidth. I'm only able to do that and keep up that level of conscious thought for but so much time every day. That's how most of us approach our problems, is that way. But our unconscious mind is like, hey, how are you feeling about making that 6 figures? Are you excited about that, or do you have doubt about that? Our unconscious mind is automatic. It's like, oh no, I'm not really sure about that $100,000. Even though I want it, I'm not really sure about it. So your unconscious mind will automatically reveal how and where you really are in or out of alignment. It's quick, right? When I was like, do you have a picture for chocolate? Instant, right? Do you have a picture for lemons? Instant, right? You can almost start to, your mouth might even start to water a little bit. So your unconscious mind is quick. It's very symbolic, works on the principle of least effort, right? You didn't have to conjure up chocolate. It was just like, boom, there it is. Your unconscious mind creates your habits. So if you're saying, I want to get up every day at 7 and work out for an hour, Your unconscious mind needs to want it as much as your conscious mind for it to stick. Your unconscious mind organizes memories, doesn't process negatives, makes associations between things, right? That's that deletion, distortion, generalization, right? Oh, a guy about 5'11" that weighs about this much, that wears his hair this way. Oh, there's my ex-boyfriend. No, but I made that association because I distorted the information. And so when you're using your unconscious mind and when you can bring your unconscious mind conscious, that's when things start to really, really shift. All right, so memory, we talked a little bit about memory, right? Has anybody ever had one of those random memories pop up out of nowhere? Yeah, I see you guys shaking your head. It happens a lot, like in yoga, like in Shavasana, when you're really relaxed. If that's happened to you, it might have been your unconscious mind presenting a memory for resolution or integration or learning. So let's play a little bit more with, so memories, right, are stored as pictures or movies. And that's your IR, right, that internal representation. Do you have a picture? So let's play with this a little bit more so you can see how your unconscious mind stores your memories, organizes and stores your memories, how it is symbolic, how it's quick, and how it works on the principle of least effort. So right now, you can keep your eyes open for this or close them, whatever's going to work for you. I want you to think about someone that you really love. Do you have a picture? And as you're thinking about that person that you really love, notice that I'm going to ask you some questions really quickly and just trust your unconscious mind. So you've got that picture of someone that you really love. Is it in black and white or color? Is it near or far? Is it moving or still? Is it focused or defocused? Is it framed or panoramic? Are you associated, meaning are you seeing it through your own eyes, or dissociated? Do you see yourself in the picture? Are you even in the picture? Now clear the screen and we're going to do something different. So just blank. Now I want you to think about cilantro. Do you have a picture? Is it black and white or color? Is it near or far? Is it focused or defocused? Is it moving or still? Is it framed or panoramic? Depending on if you're one of those people who taste cilantro as soapy, you might have a very different picture than someone who tastes cilantro as like green and peppery. But this was just an exercise to show you how your unconscious mind just instantly, quickly creates those symbols and pictures. So you can open your eyes now. We're going to talk a little bit more about symbols and how your unconscious mind speaks in symbols. So dreams, fantasies, memories, projections, signs, and synchronicities, right? Don't we all love those angel numbers? It's like, oh, 1111, what does that mean? Okay, things that you notice, right? Like I've told this story a few times before in other classes about the red car, right? So same boyfriend that I distorted the other guys that were about his height, size, etc., drove a red car. So I would notice all the red cars, right? Because at that time I was processing a lot of information about that relationship and its ending. What you take something to mean is symbolic. What colors, sounds, places mean to you, or the things that you notice, your language, right? So your unconscious mind is responding to, your unconscious mind speaks in symbols, it responds to symbols, and it organizes everything in symbols, pictures or movies. So let's play with this a little bit more. So here's some symbols, right? We live in a symbolic universe. Symbols are present all around us in everything that we do and everything that we engage in. And we have automatic and predictable for ourselves responses to these symbols. So in addition to some of these symbols, like, okay, the moon, tarot cards, hieroglyphs, social media icons, right? Symbols are also things like socially and culturally agreed upon symbols, brands, the weather. So let's play this out a little bit more. these are symbols. And each one of you right now is having a response to these symbols. Some of you are like, ooh, that's my favorite one. Some of you are like, corporations. Some of you are sorting these symbols into good and bad. Some of you are sorting these symbols into things that you do or engage with and things that you don't. Some of you are sorting these symbols into known and unknown. Some of you may not know what all these symbols mean, but all of you right now are having an unconscious response to these symbols. How about these symbols? Some of you are looking at these symbols and saying like, I want that. I hope I know what that's like one day. And some of you are like, what the heck? I hope I never encounter that. Or some of you are assessing these symbols and sorting them into things that you want, things that you don't want, things that are good, things that are bad. Some of you are sorting these symbols into things that are dangerous or things that are comfort inducing. You can be having all manner of unconscious and immediate responses to these symbols. Even language is symbolic, right? Abstract concepts are symbolic by nature. So what's peace? What's peace for me and what's peace for you may be entirely different. Peace is a very abstract concept. It's a symbol, and we all take it to mean different things. Just like success is a symbol. What does it mean? Does it mean making 6 figures a year, or does it mean being healthy and happy with 2 dogs and your favorite person? What does it mean? We have idiomatic expressions that are full of symbolic meaning, like hitting a brick wall, or it's not worth it, right? When we say it's not worth it to someone, we may think that they know what we mean, but what we mean when we say something like that may be completely different from what someone else means. Next time you hear someone say it's not worth it, there's deleted information there. So you could ask them, if you want to really like give somebody the deer in headlights look, or get them to give you the deer in headlights look. When somebody says it's not worth it, ask them specifically, how is it not worth it? And they're gonna be like, what? Nobody's ever challenged me on that. I just get to say it's not worth it and then be in my feelings. But if you ask them specifically, how is it not worth it? Now they have to bring up that deleted information. So see, even our language shows us where we're deleting, distorting, and generalizing. All right, so we talked about how the unconscious mind preserves the body, right? All your physiological functions, your memories, if something's safe or dangerous, and also your motivation, right? So what motivates you to go out and do the things that you most want to do, or live the life that you most want to live? That's largely unconscious. And it takes everything personally, right? Your memories, your experience, your meta programs, your values, and your beliefs, that's all happening on an unconscious level until you make it conscious. And your unconscious mind doesn't process negatives. Don't think of a blue tree. So back to VAKOG, we're gonna do this quick test now to find out which is your preferred representational system. How does your brain, right? There's no right or wrong answer. This is about your brain, your neurology. How does your brain process information? So if everybody could get out either a piece of paper and something to write with, or maybe you can do it on a text edit on your computer or anywhere. So I'm going to drop the scoring in the chat so that you can have it, everyone can see it. So I'm going to read you a series of statements. And so there's going to be 5 statements. So I want you to number your paper. And then under the 5 statements, you're going to have 4 answers. So you could do like 1 A, B, C, D, 2 A, B, C, D, 3 A, B, C, D. For each of these 5 statements, you're going to rate each one of those statements as 4. It's the best way, it's the closest description to you. 3, it's the next best description of you. 2, it's the next best, and 1, it's the least descriptive of you. Okay. So I'm going to drop the questions in the chat and I'm going to read them to you. First, I'm going to read them to you. And I want you to just listen for the one that you're like, yes, that's me. That's your 4. And then the one that you're like, yeah, that's kind of me. That's your 3. Your 2 is like, nah, sort of, kind of, not really. And your 1 is like, nah, very seldom. All right. I make, clear the screen. I make important decisions based on gut level feelings. Which way sounds the best? Which looks the best to you? A precise review and study of the issues. So 1A is I make important decisions based on gut level feelings. Is that a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1 for you? I make important decisions based on which way sounds the best. Is that 4, 3, 2, or 1 for you? I make important decisions based on what looks best to me. Or I make important decisions based on the precise review and study of the issues. Do it quickly, faster than your conscious mind can process, because you know what it is already. Just do it fast, faster than the conscious mind can process. All right, next one. During an argument, I am most likely to be influenced by 2A, the other person's tone of voice. Whether or not you can see the other person's point of view, the logic of the other person's argument, whether or not you are in touch with the other person's true feelings. So 2A, during an argument, you're most likely to be influenced by the other person's tone of voice. Is that a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1 for you? During an argument, you're most likely to be influenced by whether or not you can see the other person's point of view. Is that 4, 3, 2, or 1? During an argument, you're most likely to be influenced by the logic of the other person's argument. 4, 3, 2, or 1. During an argument, you're most likely to be influenced by whether or not you're in touch with the other person's true feelings. 4, 3, 2, or 1. So under each one of these, 1 will be a 4, 1 will be a 3, 1 will be a 2, 1 will be a 1, right? There's no repeats. All right, moving on. We got a few more to do. All right, you most easily communicate what's going on with you by the way you dress and look. Is that a 4, 3, 2, or 1? You most easily communicate what's going on with you by the feelings that you share, the words that you choose, the tone of your voice. Okay, they're in the chat. So you're going to label for number 3A, you most easily communicate what's going on with you by the way you dress and look. Is that a 4, 3, 2, or 1? The feelings that you share, 4, 3, 2, or 1. The words you choose, 4, 3, 2, or 1. The tone of your voice, 4, 3, 2, or 1. I love this next one. I think this next one is really cool. I mean, they're all cool, but I love this, the way this one's written. Okay, number 4. Number 4, it's easiest for you to A, find the ideal volume and tuning on a stereo system. B, select the most intellectually relevant point in an interesting subject. C, select the most comfortable furniture. Or D, select rich, attractive color combinations. Rate yourself 4, 3, 2, and 1 for each of those. So it's easiest for you to find the ideal volume and tuning on a stereo system, or in your car, or on your iPhone with your AirPods. It's easiest for you to select the most intellectually relevant point in an interesting subject. Is that 4, 3, 2, or 1? Select the most comfortable furniture. Is that 4, 3, 2, or 1? Or select rich, attractive color combinations. Is that 4, 3, 2, or 1? All right, our last one doesn't have a question. It's just, you're going to rate yourself on these statements, and I'm going to drop them in the chat. So you are a 4, 3, 2, or 1 for these statements. I am very attuned to the sounds of my surroundings. I am very adept at making sense of new facts and data. I am very sensitive to the way articles of clothing feel on my body. Or I have a strong response to colors and to the way a room looks. So you're going to rate yourself on those 4, 3, 2, or 1. Which one describes you the best? Which one describes you the next best, the third best, and then the least? So you've got all of those in the chat. And now we're going to score this. And when you score it, you will find out how your brain processes those 11 million bits of data per second, and which is your preferred modality, right? The modality are those 5 senses, the VAKOG, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. Okay, so now you should have 5 answers or 5 categories with 4 slots underneath each one. And in each of those 4 sub-slots, you wrote a number. I'm going to tell you what letter to put next to each of those scores. So under 1A, put a K. 1B, put A. 1C, put V. And 1D, put AD, the letters AD, okay? So it doesn't matter what number you put, I'm just telling you what to label them, okay? So 1A is K, 1B is A, 1C is V, and 1D is AD. And just in case I put it in the chat, AD stands for audio digital. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, we're going to go over by about 5 minutes. I hope that that's okay with you guys. Okay, great. All right, for 2, I want you to label 2A or 2 subset A with A. 2B with V, like Victor. 2C with AD, like Adam, dog. And 2D with K. Okay, so one more time, 2A is A like Apple, 2B is V like Victor, 2C is AD, and 2D is K. All right, number 3, I want you to label 3A as V like Victor, 3B as K like Kinky, 3C AD, and 3D A. I know I'm going fast, but your unconscious mind is capturing it all because you guys are with it. All right, 4. I want you to label 4A with A like Apple. 4B with AD. 4C with K. And 4D with V. Okay, 4A is A. 4B is AD. 4C is K. And 4D is V. We're almost done. All right, 5. For 5, I want you to label 5A with A, 5B with AD, 5C with K, and 5D with V. Okay, so one more time, 5A is A, 5B is AD, 5C is K, and 5D is V. Now add up how many K, how many A, how many V, and how many AD. Okay, Kendra. I know I'm going real fast. Okay, so go ahead and label those, and you will have 4 scores. You will have a K score, an A score, a V score, and an AD score. Now, once you've gotten your scores, type them in the chat from the most, right? The one you got the most points for to the least. And then I'm going to explain a little bit about what these scores mean, and then I'm going to let you go. And if anybody needed me to repeat any of the things, the scoring, let me know. Okay, so everybody is going to have 4 number values for each of those letters. So I'm going to go ahead and start telling you a little bit about what those letters mean. And in the meantime, if you have your answers, I'd love it if you just drop those in the chat so we can start to see or understand or hear or feel each other's PRSs, preferred representational systems. All right, somebody. Yeah, Krista is an auditory, audio, digital, kinesthetic, and visual. Leslie is an audio, digital, auditory, kinesthetic, and visual. Oh, this is so cool. Okay, so let me explain to you a little bit about what all of these mean. So if you are a V, if your highest score was V, that means that your preferred representational system is visual. So visuals tend to memorize by seeing pictures and are less distracted by noise. They often have trouble remembering and are bored by long verbal instructions because their mind may wander. They're interested in how things look. So some of the language that a visual might use is, I see what you mean. Look over there. I get your perspective. It appears that. Why don't you show me? Can you reveal yourself? Can you envision this? It's really clear, or it's really hazy. That's crystal clear to me. I can picture it. That's the language of a visual. Okay, Miriam is a kinesthetic, audio, digital, and then auditory visual, and Holly is a kinesthetic, visual, audio, digital, auditory. Cool, thank you for sharing your scores with me. Okay, so if you have visual in your first or second position, or just this is how visuals tend to speak and organize information. Now we had several ADs and auditory, so I'm going to go ahead and read for all you auditories now, because I know you auditories just love to listen. So auditories are typically more easily distracted by noise. They can repeat things back to you easily, and they learn by listening. They like music. They like to listen to things like audiobooks and podcasts. Tone of voice and the words used are really, 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 really important to auditories. So auditories might say things like, I hear what you mean, or they might say, listen, instead of the visual, who'll say, look. That sounds like a great idea. We make music together. We're really in harmony. I'm tuning you out, or I'm tuned in. I'm all ears. Yeah, that rings a bell. I need to be heard by you. That really resonates. Now I'm deaf to what she's saying. So you can start to see how the way that we process information gets encoded into our language. Thanks, Holly. Kinesthetics, those of you who are kinesthetic, often talk slowly with a lot more breath. They respond to physical rewards and touch. They memorize things by doing them. They're interested in things that feel right, that they get the gut feeling about something. So their language, kinesthetics language, is stuff like, I feel what you're saying. I'm in touch, or I'm out of touch. I can really get a grasp on that. Oh, that slipped through the cracks. Oh, I'm really tapped into that. Let's make contact. That feels hard, or that feels so nice. That feels so soft. I've really got a handle on that. I've got a solid understanding on that. So you can start to see how the feeling language, the kinesthetic language, is encoded in the kinesthetic person's speech and how they process things. Okay, Jerry is a visual, followed by an auditory, AD, kinesthetic, and Raquel. Oh, you're an auditory. That's interesting. I thought you would be a visual, Raquel. That's cool. And Switch is a kinesthetic, audio, digital, visual, auditory. Okay, awesome. All right, now let me tell you a little bit about AD, audio, digital. What that refers to is thinking. And that's not one of your five senses, but it is typically developed often through trauma or negative emotional experiences when it wasn't safe to trust our five senses, so we went up here. Now, all of us have audio digital, right? And it's not just trauma or negative experience that creates an audio digital or AD processing style. Some of us are just more cerebral. Some of us are more thinkers. And trauma and negative emotional experiences will tend to reinforce the audio digital tendencies. So ADs spend a fair amount of time talking to themselves, either out loud or internally. They memorize by steps, procedures, and sequences. They want to know that things make sense. They need to understand a thing. So ADs might say things like, I think I know what you mean. I understand what you're saying. Let's learn about this. Let's process this. I have to decide whether or not this is a good idea. I feel motivated or unmotivated. I perceive what you're saying. What you're saying is very distinct to me, or what you're saying is indistinct. I know or I don't know. I conceive of that. I can conceive of that, or I can't conceive of that. So that's how some of the language that an AD person might use. All right, so now that you know your PRS, right, your preferred representational system, the highest number is your brain's preferred way of filtering that 11 million bits of data. And then you'll have gotten a secondary number and then the others. They're all going to be active, but knowing your preferred modality, now that you know your preferred modality, I want to give you some homework. Okay, this is about tomorrow, day 2. All right, now that you have your preferred representational system or your preferred modality, your homework for between today and tomorrow's class is to just notice when that comes up in your language, right? If you're a kinesthetic, notice when you say like, oh, I feel what you're saying, or I feel that, or that feels hard, that feels soft. If you're an auditory, notice if you say things like, I hear what you mean. That sounds like a great idea. And so on for all of the different modalities. Notice when you're picking up on those modalities. Notice if you're a kinesthetic, ooh, that feels cool, or ooh, that feels good inside, right? Or if you're visual, noticing that you notice things visually. And start to be curious about your brain's way of filtering those 11 million bits of data. All right, so tomorrow we are going to talk about alignment. And so, oops, I didn't finish this slide, so let me get off of it. All right, so tomorrow we're going to talk about alignment, right? And how knowing your preferred representational system and how your brain organizes all of that information affects your ability to take action, to be in alignment, right? I told you my story about how like I used to be afraid of homelessness, and like literally I thought I would be homeless. I had all these anxieties around money, right? I knew I wanted to do something valuable and exciting in the world, helping people, but I had no idea how to. I was not in alignment. My unconscious mind was not in alignment with my conscious mind. My conscious mind was like, Lola, you're here to do something special. You've been given all these gifts and talents, and you know that you're kind of woo-woo, and you know that you're into all this spiritual stuff, and you know that you really care about how people think and feel, and you know intuitively that how they think and feel impacts the life that they're having, because how you think and feel impacts the life that you have, and you've had this experience and you know it, so you want to share it with people. But that was not something I could consciously do. I didn't know how to. So I was out of alignment because my conscious mind wanted to do it, but my unconscious mind had so many blocks, so much resistance, so many negative thoughts and emotions about myself and my ability to teach people, to help people, to teach these concepts, to show people how their mind works. And then once they knew how their mind works, how to get their mind in alignment so that they could go and have the lives that they wanted. Like I just saw so many people suffering, and I was suffering, but I didn't know how to do anything about it. So that's alignment. When you start to know how, when you start to know what you need to do next, and you get why you're having the experience that you're having, and you can learn from all of that. We're going to talk about all of that tomorrow on alignment. So I know I've held you here for 15 minutes past. I want to thank all of you for coming to class today and for being here and interacting with me. If you showed up live today, you get a drawing in the raffle. I forgot to mention that I'm going to be raffling off a bunch of cool stuff at the end of this, including free memberships to my online yoga studio, Amazon gift card, oracle card readings, and astrology chart interpretation. I'm just going to shower you with all my woo-woo in the raffle prizes. So if you show up live, you get a drawing into the raffle where you could win some cool prizes. So please show up live, and the more that you comment and interact in the chat, the more that you get entered into the raffle, and you also get raffle entries for participating in the Facebook group. So please be sure to join that. And if you haven't joined it yet, I will be sure you can search Holistic Autonomy on Facebook and it might come up, or just message me. because I will drop the link to you in a private message if you don't have that. All right, so thank you so much. It was awesome being here with you today. I'm super stoked to teach you more of this and to keep going into the unconscious mind, learning about the unconscious mind, about your intuition, and having a lot of fun with this. So have an awesome day, everybody. It was a pleasure to see you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye. Recording will be in the Facebook group. Thank you. Mwah. Bye, everyone.